Yo, what's up? I'm Eldritch Terror, and welcome back to my channel where I like to talk about all things spooky, scary, and have a little bit of fun. Today on the channel, we're going to be talking about Presence. Yes, Presence is the new ghost story coming out of Neon, and this film was really cool. Presence promised to give us a new perspective to the side of ghost stories, and while a ghost story from the perspective of the ghost isn't necessarily a totally new thing, the way that they handle it here is extremely creative, and I really liked it. I'd been really excited to go and see this movie because the trailers were so ambiguous, but the vibe that I got from them was just so menacing and cool. And being distributed by Neon, the bar was pretty high for me. The last handful of movies I've seen coming out of there were all really good, so I expected the Presence to be no different. I couldn't wait to see what kind of tricks Presence would pull off for us. But as I drove to this movie not exactly knowing what I was in for and questioning at all what this movie was truly going to be about, I realized that that's probably one of the best ways to go into a movie, and we really don't get that enough these days. So this is your spoiler warning. Heavy spoilers to come in this video. I'm going to talk about everything that there is to talk about with the Presence. But if you're here and you're in for it, then strap yourself down, because this one is not The Conjuring or Insidious. I'm gonna tell you that off the jump. This movie is not the scariest or the most action-packed, and it doesn't really try to be. So Blumhouse lovers and thumbsuckers beware. This one's not for you. If you're in, however, to turn your brain on for a little bit, join me on a little ghosty mystery, and let's just jump into it. Presence is a 2024 American horror drama that some would rather refer to as a paranormal thriller. Regardless, it's a haunted house ghost story from the perspective of the ghost. In the Presence, you are the Presence. Directed by Steven Soderbergh, written by David Cope, and distributed by Neon. The film stars Lucy Liu, Chris Sullivan, and Kalina Lang. The movie follows a family of four: the work-obsessed mother Rebecca, the caring and goofy father Chris, elder brother and star swimming athlete Tyler, and the neglected and grieving younger sister Chloe. They all move into an old but large suburban house in an upper echelon school district for the sole purpose of providing Tyler with the best environment to develop his swimming capabilities as possible. However, they soon find that the home is inhabited by a poltergeist, referred to in-universe as the Presence. And the entire film is presented from the Presence point of view through a series of long takes. The opening shot of the film frantically paces around the house, mainly drawn to the room that would later belong to Chloe. From the very beginning, it establishes the question, what or who is the Presence? The frantic nature of these camera movements and melancholic music that plays gives off a certain lighthearted vibe, but the obvious surrounding circumstances present a feeling of unease. As the family enters the home and moves in, we are introduced to a fairly normal family dynamic that has a lot of interesting things buried under that guise. The Presence witnesses the growing cracks within this family. The parents' marriage is strained, as Rebecca has been committing financial fraud at her work on a level that may prove disastrous for the whole family. So much so that the father, Chris, considers separating. This isn't their only issue though, as Rebecca obsesses over her son Tyler, an arrogant champion swimmer, while paying little to no attention at all to Chloe. In a scene early on in the film, the matriarch gets a little too yurt off the wine and professes to her son that she loves him more than anyone on earth, specifically including his sister, her daughter, Chloe. She also throws in there that sometimes it's okay to go too far for the ones you love. I don't know what this means, but between that, scenes of her deleting all of her emails, the father calling a lawyer to see if he can get out of something by divorce, and her just generally acting very sketch, something is going on with this woman here. In stark contrast, the father Chris is very concerned for Chloe, as she is brutally grieving the death of her best friend Nadia, one of two girls in their community who had recently died suddenly in their sleep, both of which Chloe had been friends with. Tyler coldly dismisses this though, as he believes the dead girls were none more than drug addicts, and has no time at all for any of Chloe's BS. Chris doesn't seem to be the only one that cares about Chloe though, as the Presence attaches itself to her from the moment that she enters the house. There's even a moment when the family is viewing the house and Chloe seems to make almost direct eye contact with us, but the camera runs away. And early in the film, the Presence seems to intentionally reveal itself to her by moving some things around in her room. Chloe senses the Presence, which often retreats into her closet. She even believes that it could possibly be the spirit of her dead friend Nadia. The cinematography in this movie is really cool and really well done. It was a little bit weird and jarring, but the more that I thought about it, it felt kind of like a steadier version of found footage. Yes, the camera tracks along as if it were our own POV, but it does so in a way that's really smooth and ominous. It feels very omniscient and almost ethereal in a way. Each scene is separated by these fades to black, and it almost feels like it's the ghost sifting in and out of consciousness. In this scene where the ghost kind of cleans up Chloe's room, it is so cool. When I was watching it, I was trying to figure out how they pulled this off, and it had to have been like some kind of fishing wire or something, but something so simplistic can still just look so wild. We watch very early on in this film as this poltergeist just picks up these books off of her bed and nicely puts them away for her. I'm sure I'm not the only one thinking here that I need that kind of ghost in my house. Now enter Tyler's new swimming mate from school, Ryan. This guy is introduced as Tyler's friend, but really he's coming over here to sneak around with Chloe. They smoke up and dig deep into discussions of loss and grief, until Chloe sobs over the loss of her best friend, and Ryan tries his best to console her. He tells her a bit about his traumas, divulging that he comes from an abusive household dominated by his stern mother. As a victim of emotional and mental abuse from his peers and family, he's developed some deep issues over feeling that he will never be in total control of his own life. Ryan expresses to Chloe that to him, choice is power, and that she will hold the power to decide when and where they make their hookups. Clearly, there are a lot of issues with this kid, but Chloe doesn't pick up on any of that, as she's just too upset and too lifted. The two begin hooking up, and witnessing this, the presence freaks out. It viciously shakes a shelf inside of her closet until it collapses, scaring the crap out of them and stopping them from becoming intimate. Yeah, so, this Ryan guy ain't I. Dude's giving me big Kyle vibes. Like, I know this guy just shotguns Monster Energy and punches holes in his drywall. All the red flags here seem to go over Chloe's head, and between the haunted house and the toxic lovers, I'm getting American Horror Story 1 vibes going on here. And we all know how that ended. Yeah, this Ryan guy is supposed to be Tyler's friend, so it definitely gives me bad vibes that he's preying on homie's little sister. We're gonna keep an eye on this one. Showing us just how cool of dudes Tyler and Ryan are, the presence listens as Tyler tells his family a horrible story about how they humiliated a young girl from their school. He proudly tells the story of the foul prank to his agreeable mother and disappointed father and sister. Chloe even finds an intimate photo of the girl online that her brother himself had posted, and calling him out for this egregious act, all hell breaks loose. The presence again becomes very angry and moves its way up the stairs to destroy Tyler's room in front of their very eyes, revealing its existence to the whole family. This is enough to convince the dad, but Rebecca and Tyler here, somehow still have their reservations. They just can't understand what is going on and try their best to rationalize things. The next day, Chris contacts the realtor, who insists that no one died in the home, as she would legally have to disclose that before selling the house to them. But she does recommend, however, her friend, a psychic medium, to come by and check things out for him. The medium senses the presence and notes the large vintage silver mirror built into the fireplace mantle that seemingly helps see into the spiritual world. She feels that Chloe can also sense it, due to her recently experiencing a trauma that opened the metaphorical door into a deeper world. She adds that the presence is in the house for a reason, and suggests that the presence could be trapped in an existence separate from time itself, effectively confusing past, future, and present. Tyler and Rebecca dismiss the story as absolute crazed nonsense, but Chloe and Chris have a conversation in which he reveals he 100% believes Chloe's claims, admitting that he was raised by a very religious mother and how that caused him to shy away from his faith, but that he has become more religious with time as his age has brought him more experience. The medium later attempts to return and warns Chris that she believes the presence is here to prevent some kind of future event. She doesn't know what, but she knows that it has something to do with a window that doesn't open. Okay, so now that we have the rules established, and we know that the presence can be from the past, the future, or the present, that gives us so many more red herrings on who exactly this ghost could be. At this point in the film, I had a lot of ideas personally. Some more far-fetched than others, but I mean, who knows where it's going. Obviously, Chloe thinks that it's Nadia. She thinks that her best friend has now become a guardian angel of sorts and is keeping her company and watching after her. But when the psychic told us that it could be somebody from the future, I immediately started getting flags that maybe it was Chloe. Maybe something happened to her, or maybe she reached her bottom. Maybe even the ghost accidentally pushes her out of this window that we're talking about. I don't know, she's got a lot of windows in that room. Could it be Ryan? Could he maybe OD in her room and end up as the next on the list? I mean, that guy's got a lot of problems. Or even maybe could it be the mom? I mean, we don't know what exactly she's up to. I assume that it's some sort of fraud, but I mean, she could have gotten somebody, you know what I mean? It's really ambiguous. I don't know what's going on with her. Like, I'm not saying that maybe she died in there. I mean, maybe she could, but like, maybe they got this house because she did something to somebody that was here. I don't know. There's a lot of like flags going off at this point. Chloe and Ryan continue with their sneaky link hookups, as Ryan is a few years older than Chloe and fears Tyler would be mad if he found out they were hooking up. Afterwards, Chloe hits the showers while Ryan fetches them some drinks and spikes Chloe's drink in front of the presents, here revealing that there is maybe even a little bit more wrong with this kid than we initially imagined. Chloe reaches for her glass, but sudden rumbling from the ghost causes the glass to spill off the table, saving Chloe from something terrible happening. She doesn't notice anything strange though, and when Ryan demands that they meet back up as soon as possible, Chloe obliges by informing him that her parents will be out of town for the next weekend for a business trip, and that the only obstacle in their way would be her brother. Ryan tells her not to worry about this though, as he can simply slip his friend some Ambien and it'll put him out long enough for them to get busy. So at Ryan's insistence, he and Chloe plan to spend the night together. Once the parents leave, Ryan arrives and hangs out with his good buddy Tyler while he slips him the pill and some liquor, and waits for him to fall unresponsive, leaving him asleep in the living room. He brings another spiked drink, this one spiked from a small pouch containing white powder, notably different from the pill that he slipped Tyler, up to Chloe. When he reaches her room though, Chloe admits to Ryan that she's no longer feeling comfortable with the situation, violating his previous promises to her being in control. Ryan then switches gears and manipulates her into comforting him, claiming that he just wanted to talk over a few drinks. She naively agrees and consumes the spiked drink, leaving her completely incapacitated. Ryan then takes things from bad vibes to evil vibes as he gloats that he was the one that had killed Nadia and the other girl that they were friends with. It was he that put the fen in their system and made it look like an overdose. He then takes out and unravels an ultra-thin plastic wrap that he uses to place over her nose and mouth, repeatedly cutting off her air supply as he tortures and toys with her, knowing she is completely aware yet unable to move. The presence is freaking out, and it frantically goes downstairs and wakes up Tyler, who, confused and disorientated, yet seemingly completely aware of his mission, runs upstairs and sloppily tackles Ryan, accidentally throwing both of them through the window to the hard concrete below. The presence looks out the window to the driveway, as it has many times before in the film, but now it looks down on a dead Tyler and Ryan. After the son's passing, the family have their last moments in the house as they finalize their move out. Before leaving, Rebecca now finally senses the presence and follows it to the mirror, where she sees Tyler's reflection and breaks down in absolute grief. Having fulfilled his purpose, we finally see the presence, Tyler, float out and above the house as the family leaves for the final time, seemingly at peace knowing his conflict has been resolved. Man, this ending hits fast and abrupt. I honestly think that that's one of the reasons why it was so effective for me personally. So what was going on with the presence? Well, I personally believe that it was Tyler the whole time. There's a lot of questions to be asked about the way that this whole ghost thing works, because like we watched the ghost, wake Tyler up and get him to go upstairs and help his sister just now. But we also know that the ghost exists outside of time and space or whatever. So this creates some kind of a paradox here. Some people are under the impression that maybe there was a different presence in the house previously and that Tyler replaced it. But being that he was able to move on after finishing this mission of sorts that the medium was speaking about previously in the movie, it really nails it into me that it was him the whole time. And it explains the scene where he goes and tears his room up because he was probably mad at himself for doing such a terrible thing. I mean, aside from rescuing his sister at the end, we have no reason to believe that he would have like a change of heart over his overall feelings and opinions. But throughout the film, we see shots of the father trying to talk to him and try to talk some sense into him. And he does mention that he knows deep down inside that Tyler is a good dude. He's just too caught up in his own ego at the moment. Maybe when he finally passed, it was him having to come to terms with that ego. That was the whole conflict around him being a ghost in the first place. I'm not quite sure. Some people have presented that the series of events that we see are not actually happening as they are happening, but are more so Tyler's ghost reliving his memories, trying to sort through his traumas, which that would make sense with the whole paradox thing. And if we talk about how the ghost was acknowledged at parts, then that does kind of explain itself, because I mean, if we're talking about the fragmented memories of a ghost that doesn't even understand who it is, then there's a lot of room for play there, obviously. But another theory that I would like to present is that maybe Tyler had to go through all of this because of how intoxicated he was at the time of his death. I mean, it's very evident that when he woke up, he just knew that something was going on with his sister, ran up there and just dealt with it, you know what I mean? And between the Ambien and the liquor, I think it's very easy to assume that maybe, you know, he was probably blacked out at that point, and a regular person wouldn't exactly remember what happened there. Maybe that's what triggered the ghost to go through this whole thing, I don't know. Another thing that I'm not 100% sure about is how much of this film was linear. Because if everything exists outside of time and place, then like, there's some scenes that I could see maybe moved to different contextual points in the story. Like, were we seeing things as it happened, or maybe the scene where he puts their books together and puts it to the side is like after his death? What kind of implications would that have on the story? I could also see the conversation that Tyler had with his mom moved later into the story if need be. I may just be rambling here, but it's fun to think about these things given the non-linear timeline that's set forward in this movie. We're all used to hearing the unreliable narrator angle, and what's a more unreliable narrator than a ghost that literally doesn't know what it is or why it's here? But how did you feel about The Presence? Comment below and let me know. I personally really enjoyed this movie. It was a slow burn, but it did it for me. The movie was short enough, and though it wasn't like terrifying or riddled with jump scares, I don't think that that's ever what it was trying to be. I think that this was more of an exploration type film, showing us what it would be like to be the ghost. But what are some of your favorite ghost movies? This one felt like a more self-aware paranormal activity of sorts to me. But there are so many haunted house movies. I mean, if this one wasn't it for you, there's gonna be one out there. Maybe try Amityville Horror. If you liked my video today, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content just like this. And be sure to send it to a friend you think might enjoy it too. I've been Eldritch Terror, and whether your day's been going good or bad today, I hope it gets better.